Nobody taught you the most practical subject in the world. You learned wars, formulas, diagrams, and definitions. You memorized facts you never used again. But when it came to the thing that would shape your stress, your freedom, your relationships, your career options, your retirement, and the quality of nearly every decision you make, the room went quiet. Money, I have always found that extraordinary, not because money is life. It is not. But because money is the operating system life runs on. That is the mother line for everything I want to tell you. Money is an operating system. If the system is weak, every part of life feels harder than it should. A good income leaks away. A bad month becomes a crisis. A small emergency becomes expensive debt. A decent job feels like a prison because you cannot afford uncertainty. A strong market does not help much because you never built enough structure to participate in it consistently. The problem is not always effort. Very often it is that the operating system was never installed correctly. That is why so many people work hard and still feel financially behind. They are not lazy, they are running on a broken system. And when the system is broken, more income alone does not save you. In many cases, more income just gives the broken system more fuel to burn. So the first thing I want you to understand is your financial. Now, not your fantasy, not your potential, not what you might become if everything goes right. Your financial now, if you do not know your starting point, then every decision you make is partly People love talking about becoming wealthy. Fine. But wealth is not built by enthusiasm. It is built by clarity. Your financial now has three numbers: what you own minus what you owe, what comes in minus what goes out each month, and how long you could survive if the income stopped tomorrow. Those three numbers tell the truth faster than almost anything else in money. Net worth is the first one. People either worship this number or avoid it completely. I prefer respect. Net worth is not your self-worth. It is not your moral value. It is not a final judgment. It is just a brutally useful snapshot of whether your past behavior has been building or eroding financial strength. If you add up your cash, your accounts, your home equity, if you own one, your car, if it has real value, and anything else meaningful you own, then subtract your debts. The number that remains is the truth about the balance sheet you have built. A lot of people are shocked by it. Good shock is often the first honest teacher. The second number is monthly cash flow. This one matters more in daily life because it reveals the direction of movement. Net worth tells you where you are. Cash flow tells you whether you are moving forward or backward, money in, money out. If more is coming in than going out, you have surplus. Surplus is the raw material of wealth. If more is going out than coming in, then your future is being quietly sold to support your present. That is what debt so often is, a sale of tomorrow to calm today. And if the number is basically zero every month, then you are not broken, but you are fragile. Fragility is the true enemy in personal finance. A fragile life can look normal right up until life applies pressure. The third number is runway. This may be the most emotional number of all because it measures your breathing room. If income vanished tomorrow, how long could you keep the lights on, keep food in the house, keep rent or the mortgage paid, keep moving, keep thinking clearly before fear took over the whole system? Most people do not know this number because they do not want to. But I have always believed that what you refuse to measure eventually controls you from the shadows. Once you know these three numbers, something powerful happens. The fog lifts. You may not like what you see, but uncertainty loses its grip. Financial anxiety is often made worse by vagueness. A hard truth with a number attached is easier to fix than a soft dread floating around your head all week. Now, once you know where you are, the next mistake people make is setting financial goals that sound impressive but have no living connection to the life they actually want. They say, I want to save $10,000. What they say? I want to get out of debt. Good. Why? They say, I want to be rich. Compared to what? This is where the operating system idea matters again. A good goal is not a random number pinned to a wall. A good goal is a life decision translated into money. If you want the freedom to leave a job you hate, then your goal is not just a bigger savings account. Your goal is enough runway to say no without panic. If you want to buy a home, then the goal is not save more. It is a down payment, closing costs, better credit, lower debt, and enough cushion that the house does not become a trap after you get the keys. If you want to retire early, then the goal is not invest harder. It is building a payroll machine large enough to fund your life without your labor sitting at the center of it. That is how adults should think about money. Life first, numbers second. But once the life goal is clear, the numbers must become specific. Vague desire produces vague effort. Specific goals create mechanical action. How much by when for what? That is how the system wakes up. Now we come to the part almost everyone hates talking about: budgeting. I understand why. Most people hear the word and imagine punishment. A spreadsheet jail, a weekly argument with themselves, a boring moral lecture about coffee. I have no interest in that version of budgeting. A real budget is not a restriction plan. It is a command plan. You tell every dollar where it goes before it wanders off and joins someone else's agenda. That is the point. A person without a budget thinks he is free because nothing is labeled. In reality, unlabeled money gets captured by habit, advertising, convenience, and emotion. The person feels spontaneous. The system sees prey. I prefer intention. Now, you do not need a beautiful, complicated budget to win. In fact, overly elegant budgets often fail because they look wonderful on paper and collapse in contact with real life. What matters is that the system is usable. Some people need broad buckets, needs, wants saving and debt that can work. Some people need every dollar assigned a job before the month begins. That can work too. Some people need physical limits, almost like envelopes for categories that are too easy to overspend. Fine, use what works. The point is not to win a budgeting-style contest. The point is to stop letting money disappear without your permission. And the best budgets do not just account for regular bills, they account for irregular certainty. That sounds like a contradiction, but it is not. Car insurance every 6 months. Holiday gifts, annual subscriptions, school costs, medical deductibles, home repairs, travel to see family. These things feel like surprises only because people refuse to spread them across the year in advance. A mature budget makes room for predictable irregularity. That alone can reduce more financial chaos than another year of reading headlines ever will. But the real heart of the operating system is not the budget, it is the emergency fund. This is the part people delay because it looks boring and because the amount required feels large compared to the life they are currently living. I understand that. Still, I have watched too many lives get wrecked by the absence of even a modest cash shield to soften my view here. An emergency fund is not there to make you rich, it is there to stop life from making you stupid. Without cash, every emergency becomes debt. Every job interruption becomes desperation. Every repair becomes a negotiation with panic. That is why I think of emergency savings as decision quality insurance. Even a small buffer improves judgment. $1,000 will not solve every problem, but it can stop a tire, a deductible, or an appliance from becoming a credit card wound that bleeds for months. 1 month of expenses is not complete safety, but it is the beginning of breathing room. 3 to 6 months is where life starts to feel less like a trap. And I want to say something very clearly for people who feel overwhelmed. Small is not useless. $10 a week is not meaningless. 20. $5 a week is not embarrassing. What matters is that the buffer starts growing and that the habit becomes automatic before your emotions get a vote. Automation is one of the great hidden gifts in personal finance. It lowers the amount of character required. I like character. I also like systems that do not force you to reinvent it every payday. Now we reach the part where the operating system gets tested hardest. Debt. Not all debt is the same. I think people get this wrong in both directions. Some act as if all debt is evil. Some act as if all debt is just a tool, and therefore emotionally neutral. Neither view is precise enough. Debt is best understood by asking one simple question. Does it strengthen the machine or drain it? A mortgage on a sensible home may strengthen the machine if the terms are healthy and the house fits your life. Student debt may strengthen the machine if the degree meaningfully raises earnings and the cost was not absurd. A low-rate business loan attached to real productive capacity can strengthen the machine. A credit card balance at 20% used to fund dinners, clothes, and random online purchases is not debt. It is a predator. This is why I keep saying the same thing in different ways. High-interest consumer debt must die early if you want the system to recover. There is almost no world in which paying 20% interest while trying to build wealth makes sense. That is not investing. That is digging a hole and throwing seeds into it. People love arguing about whether to use the debt snowball or debt avalanche. Fine, one prioritizes small balances for psychological wins. The other prioritizes high interest rates for mathematical efficiency. I respect the math of the avalanche and the motivation advantage of the snowball. Use the one you will actually finish. Completion matters more than philosophical purity, but do not miss the deeper issue. If you pay off the debt and never fix the behavior that created it, then all you did was temporarily clear the symptoms. Lifestyle inflation, emotional spending, lack of tracking, shopping as entertainment, a weak boundary between desire and affordability. These are system failures, not just balance problems. That is why debt is not only financial, it is behavioral. Now, once the defensive side of money is in place, the conversation most people actually came for can begin investing. Here is the simplest, honest definition I know. Investing is putting money to work, so your labor is no longer the only employee in your life. That is all, not gambling, not getting rich by next quarter, not sounding smart at dinner, putting money to work. And the reason it matters is brutal but simple. Cash that sits too long in ordinary accounts is being quietly drained by inflation. The number may not move much, but the purchasing power beneath it leaks away. That means not investing is not neutral. Over a long enough period, it is an active choice to let the future get more expensive while your money stays weak. Now, the great miracle and the great difficulty of investing are the same thing: compounding. People talk about it as if it were magical. It is not magical. It is mechanical. Returns begin producing returns. Growth begins feeding on growth. Time starts doing labor you never personally perform, but the first phase feels insultingly slow. That is where many people quit. They contribute a little, they wait. The account barely moves in a way they can feel. So they conclude compounding must be overrated. It is not overrated. It is simply invisible at low scale. In the early years, you are still the main engine. Your contributions matter more than the returns. Later, the machine changes shape and the money begins helping itself. That is why time, and that is why starting matters more than brilliance. Give me a person who invests boring money for decades over someone who hunts heroic returns for 3 exciting years. Now, what should you actually buy? For most people, the answer is much more ordinary than the internet wants it to be. Broad low-cost index funds. That is not exciting. Good excitement is overrated in wealth building. The goal is not thrill. The goal is durable participation in productive assets over long stretches of time. Broad index exposure owns pieces of many companies. It spreads risk. It keeps fees low. It avoids the ego trap of trying to outsmart a machine that humbles professionals for a living. I am not saying nobody ever wins picking stocks. I am saying the average person dramatically underestimates how much damage behavior, fees, taxes, and emotional timing mistakes do to an otherwise promising strategy. Boring often wins because boring is easier to continue, and continuity is everything. Retirement accounts deserve special respect because the tax structure matters almost as much as the investment itself. If your employer offers a match, take it. Free money is too rare to insult. After that, Roth and traditional accounts each have their place. But the larger point is simple. Use the lanes the system already gave you before you get clever elsewhere. Now we have to talk about the 2 biggest purchases most people ever make. Homes and cars. People get both of these wrong all the time because they let emotion wear the mask of adulthood. A house can be an excellent long-term decision. It can also be a beautifully decorated financial trap. Buying is not automatically better than renting. The question is whether the full cost of ownership fits your life, your timeline, and your margin. Mortgage, taxes, insurance, repairs, maintenance, flexibility, all of it counts. If a house destroys your savings ability and traps you in a job you hate just to keep the payment alive, then it is not a wealth move. It is a stress machine. Cars are worse. The average car payment is now large enough to quietly erase fortunes if you project the money forward. This is why I distrust prestige wrapped in financing. A car should solve transportation efficiently. The minute it becomes a personality purchase financed over years, it starts stealing from the future in a way that feels normal, only because so many people are doing the same foolish thing together. And now we arrive at the finish line everyone keeps putting off. Retirement. People treat retirement like a distant chapter. But retirement is not an age. It is a payroll problem. Can your assets generate enough to support the life you want when your labor slows down or stops? That is the only question. Social Security may help, but building a future on help is not the same as building one on structure. If your retirement plan depends on average balances, average savings rates, and average discipline, then you are likely headed toward average anxiety later. That is not a sentence, and the beautiful part is that the warning comes with a solution. Start now. Start small if you must. Automate everything you can. Track progress quarterly, not neurotically. Increase contributions when income rises. Keep the operating system clean. That is what works, not magic, not perfect timing, not endless research, execution. I have always believed that most people overestimate what they can change in 1 month and underestimate what they can change in 10 years. Money rewards the person who keeps showing up with clarity more than the person who keeps waiting for the perfect moment to finally become disciplined. So let me leave you with the only conclusion that matters. Financial literacy is not trivia, it is self-defense. It is the difference between living inside a system you understand and living inside one that keeps quietly using your confusion against you. Once you understand your starting point, align your goals with the life you actually want. Control the monthly flow. Build the emergency shield. Kill bad debt. Invest steadily. Treat houses and cars like math instead of identity, and automate the whole thing. The operating system stops crashing. And when the system stops crashing, something extraordinary happens. Life gets lighter. Not because money solves everything, because for the first time, your money is finally working in the same direction you are.